Good morning, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, I give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh. Also, I acknowledge the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is the Holy Spirit. Also, I want to acknowledge Yahweh Shai. I pray that the Most High blesses this lesson today and gives us more understanding of the events of the past, things that are currently, manifesting themselves on the earth, and the things that are soon to come on this planet. Been doing a lot of reading, a lot of studying, and the Most High, well, I have a much bigger few videos coming, but I got this book, the Most High blessing with this book yesterday, and I wanted to kind of bring out just a couple of the golden nuggets that are actually in this book that pretty much support a lot of the things I've been saying in the last couple of videos concerning the Edomites and the Gentiles not having authority over our books. They don't have the authority to be telling us which books we can read and can't read, which books are, okay for for canonization and for studying, which ones are not. And I've actually seen quite a few people that are supposedly even our own people who come and want to argue and fight over the books that Esau has approved for us, which then pretty much just makes you no different than an Edomite. If you are supposedly an Israelite and you're just fighting to continue the lies of Esau, then you're pretty much just a tool for the Gentiles. Because I've been telling people, and some people don't want to believe it, I'm going to let Esau show you himself. Okay? Because Esau tells you himself that there are plenty of other books that are very important, but they just chose not to canonize them. So maybe if an Edomite tells you, or quite a few of them, tell you, maybe then you'll believe it. And if they're going to lie to you about which books they decided you should read and which ones that they said you can't read, and they have no really good justification as to why, then what else are they hiding? I mean, all of the lies are beginning to unravel very quickly. And this is why, the Bible and all these scriptures are true. You just cannot let a liar teach them to you. You cannot let a liar dictate which books he tells you are good, and you follow whatever it is that he says. This is the time of information. This is the time that the Most High is sending the Holy Spirit to open up the eyes of his children. And if you realize that they've lied to you about, just about everything else, why would you seem to think they would not lie to you about which scriptures they say are good and which ones are not? I was blessed with this book. It's a book from 1895. It's right here. It's called the Bible Reader's Aids. Now, I've been working on some notes for another video, and I was blessed with this book right here, and it just fit perfectly with the video I'm going to make in the near future. But I think that it's got so much information that I'm going to bring out a little bit of it now, and then so when you see another books or another videos, you'll be able to put the puzzle pieces together as well. But there's so much information. I was just reading and taking a lot of notes. I have a couple of sons that are actually in high school, and they're playing summer league basketball. So I'm over here in the stands reading and taking notes and everything else. All the parents kind of looking at me all crazy because, I'm not just sitting there just enamored with just watching every little thing that's going on in the game. I'm here studying because, that's my priority. We do things for fun, stuff like that. But my priority is doing the will of the Father. It's good to take time out and do things with the family, things like that, but you got to make sure that you keep plugging away whenever you have free time and whatever else. You use that time to do the work of the Father. And that's what I do. So this book right here, this is the front cover. It's very old. So it's an original, 1895. And Let's see here. It says the Bible Reader's Aids, brief treatises upon the outlines of topics related to the study and understanding of the Holy Scriptures. You got a lot of different pastors over here that have kind of added their opinions and things like that in here. So this here is the cover pages right here inside the book. It shows you right here, copyright 1895, and this was like the first edition. Many people have a lot of these books in their homes, and they don't realize the golden nuggets that they have, and they think this is trash because they don't really know the Most High has given the Spirit to understand it, and the Most High makes it a point to make sure that it gets into the hands of His servants. A lot of this information in the right hands is absolutely devastating to Esau and the Gentiles and the lies that they've been spreading. All right. So one of the first things we're going to get into right here. This is not going to be a very terribly long video, but I just want to kind of show you that they're letting you know that this information is very important. Now, I'm going to read something to you. We're talking about the apocryphal books of the Old Testament. And it's in page 42 of this book. And it talks about the importance of the Apocrypha. And it says, the importance of the study of the Apocrypha is obvious when we consider that it serves in a great measure to fill up the interval of about 400 years between the writings of the Old and New Testaments. All right. It says, so they're telling you right there that it's important just to get the information about what was going on for that 400 years. Now, they call it a 400 years of silence. That's how they explain it away. That's how the Gentiles and the Edomites explain it. There was this 400 years of silence. There was nothing going on for these 400 years. Yeah, well, if you want to hide all these books, then of course you can say it's 400 years of silence. But they were trying to hide their actions against the Hebrews. So you can learn about what happened with when with the dream in the book of Daniel. Okay, by Nebuchadnezzar. You can read about the Babylonians and what they did. You can read about what the Persians and Medes did. But all of a sudden you get to the Greeks and there's nothing. There's nothing about the Greeks because they hid all that information. But in this book, it's going to let you know that actually this information is very vital. So they hide that. The Romans, they tell you a little bit about it. But you can read about all the other ones. But the stuff that Esau does, they always try to hide it. But like I said, in this book here, this Bible aid book, this is what it just said. It says, the importance of the study of the Apocrypha is obvious when we consider that it serves in a great measure to fill up the interval of about 400 years between the writings of the Old and New Testaments. Okay? So, and they kind of start giving you like a little breakdown of each book. But I wanted to kind of jump to the part where it talks about the book of Maccabees, the first one right here. Okay? So remember, it says 14 on the left-hand side right here. It says, the first book of the Maccabees is a work of great historical value. It contains an account of the history of the Jews in Palestine from 175 to 135 BC, beginning with Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, attempt to abolish the Jewish religion. Well, we know it wasn't a religion. Okay, they tried to abolish the Israelites' way of life. Okay, narrating the heroic exploits of the Maccabean brothers and concluding with the death of Simon, the high priest. The work is probably composed by an unknown author about 105 BC. Like I said, with Esau, you can believe some of the stuff he says and some of the stuff he just kind of throw out. All right. Now, the second book of Maccabees is of an inferior historical value to the first. It doesn't make it sound like it's not as, it just says it's not as important. But it doesn't make it sound like it's not important. Okay? And of a later date. The author was probably a Jew of Alexander. Like I said, when you start talking about probablys and maybes, that's just your opinion. That's not a fact. So they don't know. Okay? So, but the main thing I wanted to look at was that 14. All right. Now, I have an older Bible that I've made a video on discussing, actually showing you how there was actually precepts in the Apocrypha because the people that were actually came later, the apostles and everything, they all use this information. So you need this information in order to get a good grasp of what they're writing in the New Testament. Okay? Let me see here. I'm going to make sure I have everything right. There's a whole lot of other books in here. But like I said, we're just going to talk about this guy. Like I told you, we're only going to do a few of the books, a little bit of the information, and we'll go more in depth in future videos. Now, this is a picture of my older Bible that's from the early 1800s. And it's the first book of the Maccabees. And if you look to the right, you can see in the column over there that they have the precepts. It's not a really good picture, but what I'll do is I will link the description. I'll put the link to the other video that I did. It actually has this page, and it's a whole breakdown of this page right here. And you can really see the precepts that are already on the side. All right, because the people that were actually writing, like Paul, was actually referencing the book of Maccabees. So just because all of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of years later on, the Edomites and the Gentiles decided that, well, we don't think it's important, so we're going to take it out. Well, the actual apostles used this information. So they were the ones that were using it. So they were the ones that were referring to it. So therefore, it was important. That's why it's so important to read all this information. Okay? Now I'm going to show you, because we know this happened right here. This is something that's actually in the Bible Aid book. He goes, at what time the Jews lost the use of their language is a disputed point. That's a lie. Okay. But when the mass of the people could no longer understand their native tongue, okay, the law was publicly read as described in Nehemiah 8. Okay. That's not true. People know exactly when they started losing their language. Was during the time of right here, the Greeks, because the Greeks forced the Israelites to follow the ways of the Greeks and to walk away from their own way of life. Let's find out really quick. Okay. Well, many of our people chose to follow the ways of the Greeks. And we're going to read about that real quick. Let's see. If we go to, let me see what I'm going to read here in this first book of Maccabees. Let's go to 10. So on the left-hand side, we'll start at 10 right here. And there came out of them, actually, hold on. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. And those days went out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So many of our people joined themselves to the heathen, started doing the things that they do in order to have a much better life here, which is no different than today. Like I talked about in the other video, there's many of our own people who've put their money and they bet on the horse of the Edomites and the Gentiles, and they can't go back. So like I said, so every person that looks like us isn't our people, because many of them have joined themselves. Right here it says how many people have done this. I said, and that's no different than today. Nothing ever changes. Things just repeat themselves. All right, so let's go to 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen. And this is the most important part right here, 15. And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. And that is the precept for that one right there. This is a precept for 1 Corinthians 7 and 18. The other video that I'm going to leave in the description box will go into this much more in depth, because it's pretty much the whole video. I made it over a year ago. Goes into this quite a bit. And I'm not going to rehash that, but pretty much what happens here is that the Israelites decided to they forsook their covenant with the Most High and made themselves uncircumcised. Now, did they physically do that? No. Spiritually, they became heathens by leaving the Most High, leaving His ways. Okay, and then following the way of the heathen. So they took on Greek customs, the Greek language. And Greece had gone all over the place, taking over all these different areas. And our people were spread all over the place. So they learned all these different languages. So they didn't speak or dress in their normal attire, Hebrew attire. They started to look like the other nations. They started to marry with the other nations. They started to have kids with women from the other nations. Okay. So when you go to Acts 2 and you got all these different people that are all coming to celebrate a Israelite holy day, they're Israelites who have been spread out all over the place, who have lost their heritage, who are speaking different languages, who could not communicate all with each other. So that's when the Holy Spirit came and made it so that it was possible for these people to be able to communicate. But the heathen make it sound like it's just all these different people, all these different nations, all just coming together, which is not what it was. All right. Now, later on, if you keep reading this chapter, this is why it's very important. You go to 41. It's still the first book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41. This shows you why they don't speak the same languages anymore, why they don't follow the same religions, and they were dressing differently. Listen to this part. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. And they forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices, and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised. Now that's physically and spiritually now, okay? And make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanliness and profanation. Okay? To the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And so this is why they're hiding all this information. They said, yeah, it's really important that you know all this, but we don't want you to really read it because you realize that the Greeks were the ones who took away your pretty much your whole way of life and made you become a Greek. So when you see hearing these people talking about, well, in the Greek it says this and in the Latin it says that, who cares? I said, those are your languages that you forced on our people, that the Most High never intended to happen until we fell off and did the wrong things. Okay, let me continue. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should die. So they were killing our people. They were killing women. They were killing the children. They were killing the men. I said, who would not follow the ways of the kings. Okay, for Antiochus. So this was what was hidden. Even though it says that it's important that you read this information to get this 400 years of information, they don't want you to know this, so they hide it. So then they'll say things like this. Oh, well, at what time the Jews lost the use of their language is a disputed point. No, it's not. It's disputed if you hide the books. But if you actually read the books, you'll see it's not disputed at all. It was forced on them by the Greeks. Because during the time of the Babylonians, they knew who they were. Because they were allowed to know who they were. During times of the Persians and Medes, they knew who they were. They actually allowed them to go back and rebuild their temple. It was when you get to the Greeks, when the Greeks said, no, you're not going to keep doing your thing because we need to separate you from your power. You're going to do what we tell you to do. You're going to follow our religions. You're going to follow the things that are customs, or we're going to kill you. So, like I said, when they're saying things like this, at what time the Jews lost the use of their language is a disputed point. No, they know exactly when it was. You're going to learn Greek. You're going to learn Greek history, just like today. You're going to learn everything that they tell you to do. You go to school. No, you can't speak your languages. You can't, practice the things that you used to practice. You're going to practice what we tell you to practice. You're going to practice what we tell you is right. Okay? So like I said, let me see here. Real quick, the first book of Maccabees is a work of great historical value. It contains an account of the history of the Jews in Palestine from 175 to 135 BC, beginning with the Antiochus Epiphanes' attempt to abolish the Jewish religion. It wasn't just the religion, it was their whole way of life, their language, their customs, everything. All right. And then you like how they just kind of, real quick. He just tried, he made an attempt to abolish their Jewish religion. I mean, they really kind of they're always trying to play off all of their actions. Yeah, he tried, but he wasn't really successful. Yeah, no, he was really successful because if you didn't do it, he'd kill you. They were hanging women off the walls, children killing them, killing people on the Sabbath day, things like that, but they don't want you to really, it's important, but we'll let you know what's important. So I remember going to church and the pastor never let us read it, but he kind of gave us his opinion or his little breakdown of what was going on in a 400-year period. And they're always trying to minimize the things that the Greeks and the Romans were doing to our people, like they always do. Okay? Now let's continue with some more of this information. Here we go. Now, we're going to jump up to the New Testament Apocrypha. I don't think a lot of people even realize that there was actually a New Testament Apocrypha, because we're always talking about the Old Testament Apocrypha. But there's actually a lot of books that they kept out that were written. I mean, hello, we have 12 apostles, right? How come we only have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? We only have 4 of the apostles, 1/3. Where are the other 8? We had other people who were going out and doing the work of the Most High. They didn't write anything either. I said, so they were just keeping all this information hidden. But they're going to tell you how actually this information is actually very important. All right, hold on fast. Get these little pop-ups. All right. Skip on, well, we'll read here. It's not that much. A number of writings professing to supplement the New Testament, and which may be styled for convenience New Testament Apocrypha, were known in the early ages of the church. Now, remember, there is no early age of this church here. This church started in 325 AD with the Council of Nicaea and the establishment of the Catholic Church. All right. So before that, you're talking about mostly Hebrews who are so they're not. I love how they try to implement. They try to always implement their church. When they say church, you start first thinking about them, but it has nothing to do with them. Hebrews were the ones who were following the Most High, following, the Son. It wasn't just Constantine Christians at this time. That's not who they're talking about. Let's continue. The New Age Apocrypha were known in the early ages of the church. These writings, which were always carefully excluded from the canon, the canon, okay, that came out late. That came later on. Okay, may be arranged in 4 divisions. Now check it out: the Gospels, Acts, Apocalypses, and Epistles. I like this part right here. For the Gospels right here, according to the unanimous opinion of critics. What the hell does that mean? The unanimous opinion of critics. Who's that? No, there's no names. There's nobody there. It's just the unanimous opinion of critics. So pretty much Edomites, Gentiles. They just all agree that this is bad. So if they all agree, then it's horrible. You see what I'm saying? Like just absolutely ridiculous. And then we got our people who are sitting here fighting for this, to maintain this garbage. So I'm going to read it again. According to the unanimous opinion of critics, these are mostly forgeries. They're mostly forgeries, okay? They say they're all, but they're mostly forgeries, okay? Of little value, because Esau says it's not a value, so therefore it's not a value, okay? Of no literary merit and abounding in inaccuracies. They throw some light upon early Christian thought, are useful in tracing the growth of legends, and of value in the defense of the canonicity of the genuine writings of the New Testament. The apocryphal Gospels presuppose the existence of the canonical, as is apparent not only from their quotations from the, and I'll continue to read on the next page, but again, it's just a whole bunch of opinions about why they don't include these books. This is the next page, okay? Evangelists, but also from the silence and reference to many events in the life of Jesus. So like I said, they get to dictate, well, it doesn't talk about this, so therefore these books are horrible. All right. I'm gonna let you read a lot of that on your own, but it says the most important of the apocryphal gospels is I want to say Protoevangelium of James. Okay. And I'll let you read that part of the Gospel of Thomas is really good. I love that one. That's number 5. It's contained in Greek, probably of the 14th and 16th centuries, though it is probably almost as old as Protoevangelium. All right, the Gospel of Peter is really good. Discovered in a tomb in Egypt in 1886, published in 1892. And a lot of these things, I think, if you had, when they were actually cracking down and canonizing books, if you got caught with some of the other writings, they would kill you. And why exactly are they killing people for things that are lies? If they're lies, then let people will come to that conclusion on their own. But why are they killing people? Because they have different books. This is a forced conversions here at the end of a sword. They're pretty good at doing that. That's what Esau's MO is. Now skip on down here to, I want to read the Acts. Right here, on the left-hand side, part 2, the Acts. Though abounding in extravagances, okay, are superior, okay, to the apocryphal gospels. Now, it doesn't say that they're bad. It says they're superior, but it's not saying you can't read these books. It just says, though abounding in extravagances, they are superior to the apocryphal gospels. They are romantic in character and tinged with the Oriental coloring. The principal ones are, now you said you got some really good books here. The Acts of Peter is good. Paul, Acts of Peter and Acts of Paul, those are good. The Acts of Paul and Thecla, that's one of my favorites. That's another really good one right there. The Acts of Barnabas, another really good one. The Acts of Philip. I haven't read all of these because there's actually, look at all these different books that they're totally aware of that were not canonized, but they didn't say you couldn't read it. They didn't say why they didn't put them in the canon, but look at all these different books. All right, the Acts and Martyrdom of Matthew, the Acts of Thomas, Martyrdom of Thomas, the Martyrdom of Bartholomew, the Acts of Thaddeus, the Acts of John. Like I said, it doesn't say that they're bad. It doesn't say that why they didn't canonize them. But there's all these other books here that they were totally aware of. Now, like I said, first of all, they don't have the authority to be canonizing and saying what's good and what's bad. But then there's all these other books that they just, didn't put in there, and most people have no idea or even exist. Look at 3, the Apocalypses. Clement of Alexandria in the 3rd century, and other writers have preserved fragments of the so-called Apocalypse of Peter. That's a really good one. The Apocalypse of Paul is one of my favorites also. The Apocalypse of Paul is a description of what the apostle saw and heard when caught up into the 3rd heaven. It's 2 Corinthians 12. So, here a little, there a little, just to go to different places to find more information. This is telling you right here that if you want to know about what happened in, 2 Corinthians 12, you need to read the Apocalypse of Paul because it's connected. Didn't say you couldn't. See that right there? Like I said, Esau just shooting himself in the foot right here. I said because he's giving you all these different books that they're not canonized, but he's not saying that you can't read them. Now check this out. This next part is the kicker. Huge. The epistles. Right there at the bottom on the left-hand corner. I'm going to show you guys see that right there. Okay? Well, now I have to wait for this to go down. But the books grouped under this head are of real value. Now see, they're admitting it right there, that these books are very important. The books grouped under this, I'm going to read again. The books grouped under this head are of real value and ought not to be classed as New Testament Apocrypha. They may, however, conveniently be given here as contained in Hilgenfeld's Novum Testamonum, something like that, or Extra Canonum, or New Testament outside the canon. Fragments of the other works included by Hilgenfeld are here passed over. Now, like I said, now they're telling you right here that this stuff is really good. Again, however conveniently as, let me see here, not to be classed as New Testament Apocrypha. They should just be looked at as a New Testament outside the canon. You see this right here? And look at, I mean, this information is really good. Really good. The Epistle of Barnabas, really good book. I'm not going to read all that information. If you want to read it, you'll go look at it yourself. You'll look some of the stuff up yourself. The Epistle of Clement, really good. The second Epistle of Clement is really good also. The Shepherd of Hermas is one of my favorites, and I've done videos on those ones. And there's multiple books. The Didache, or Teachings of the 12 Apostles, right there. Great information. Okay? But like I said, right here, the epistles is a great value. The books grouped under this head are of real value. So Esau is telling you that these books are important, but he's kept this information away from you. And when I sit there and hear people come on the comment board, or it's only the 1611 and that's it. There's nothing else. That's all we need. Well, okay, if that's what Esau told you and that's what you want to do, you want to be his lapdog and say whatever it is that he says and parrot whatever he says, and you go right ahead. But this book right here is telling you, Esau is telling you right here, that these other books are of great value. Okay, and I actually have another part I wanted to read. Did I put it in here? Because it's actually really important, because actually there's a whole list of other books. And I'm trying to find out where it's at. Let me see here. Hold on. Trying to find them. Counsel, solicited, commit. Because there was another one that I wanted to read that was actually really important, but I want to make sure I have the right page. Page 56. Let me go there really fast. Where are they? Because it goes into quite a few of the other books, and they actually talk about how important that they actually are. And I'm trying to find where they are. Let's do the Apocryphal writings, because it talks about the ones here in page 55, 56. I'm gonna find them, because if I don't have it here, I'm going to read it to you, because it goes into a whole list of quite a few of the other books. But this, the writing is actually so small, so sometimes it's kind of hard to find some of this information. The Testament of the 12, maybe it's actually with, Enoch. So actually, it's going to be with the other ones. All right, so hold on real fast. Let me find this. Church. I'm looking for the Old Testament. Let me see if it's in here. Yes, it's right here, actually. Yes, here it is. Go to 18. Right here. This is very important. Now check this part out right here. Because, we talk about the 14 books of the Apocrypha, but there's actually way more books. Way more books. And they're telling you right here. Okay? They don't tell you about that anywhere else, but, they're telling you right here that there's actually way more books. Check this part out right here. Number 18. Among the other apocryphal writings, or hidden, okay, of the Old Testament may be enumerated. So, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to number some of them off. The Book of Jubilees, or the Little Genesis. The Book of Enoch, the Assumption of Moses, the Ascension of Isaiah, the Apocalypse of Baruch, the Sibylline Oracles, the Psalter of Solomon, the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs. I love those. The Testament of the 12 is awesome. Any of the Baruch books, all these, Book of Jubilees is one of my favorites. Okay? Now, not one of all of these, okay, though each is important from various points of view, has been recognized as canonical. Now check that out. I had to read it a couple of times to make sure I understood what they were saying. So now I'm going to read out again. Not one of all these, though each is important from various points of view, has been recognized as canonical. So they're telling you these books are important. It says each of them is important from various points of view, has it recognized as canonical. Okay? With the single exception of the Book of Enoch, which is received by the Abyssinian church, but by no other. So just because Esau's churches don't accept it, they say that they're no good. But you know why they can't have that Jubilees. At Jubilees, when it starts talking about the what was given to each son, which land was given to each son, and how if you go and take someone else's land, that you are now cursed yourself and your offspring. You can't teach that. I said, because that's what Esau wasn't given a land. So when he got his blessing, he was going to be given the fatness of the earth. He was going to come and take our land. That's why you got to keep that Book of Jubilees out of here. You can't be reading that, because once someone starts to read that, you start to realize that that's all they've done is gone and conquer our lands, the best lands. And then they have now opened up their own children, to be cursed. Because Canaan was an example of that. Because he went and took our land, and the Most High, gave the land back to his people. And it cursed him. And cursed Canaan. Okay? So like I said, that's why this is very important right here. I love this part because this is not one of all of these, though each is important from various points of view, hasn't recognized as canonical. So they haven't recognized any of these books as canonical, but they're important. So now I've shown you how Esau himself has been telling you there's all these important books that he has not canonized. So excuse me again, how is it that he has any validity to anything that he's telling you? The church has never told you this. The church has never said, hey, you know what, there's a whole lot of books that you could read because they'll give you more information. They'll give you more understanding. They don't tell you that. They don't even tell you to read the books they say are good. They say, oh, well, we'll read them for you and let you know. We don't want you to get confused. We'll break it down for you. So they're telling you right here that these books are important. And they just weren't canonized. So it's been a whole lot of time trying to keep the lies going. You're getting your epistles at the bottom there on the left-hand side. The books grouped under this head are of real value. And look at all those different books right there that most have never even touched on. And when I usually try to bring them out, I was getting attacked left and right, not as much anymore, but for reading anything other than the 1611 and the 80 books. Even though in 2nd Ezra 14, it says there's going to be more books that are going to be released at the end, which is exactly what's happening. So I just wanted to bring out a quick video and kind of give you guys some information. I'm going to be using this book quite a bit. Also, among the other ones, I'm reading a lot of different books, getting a lot of information, just trying to synthesize a lot of it in order to bring it to you in videos here, so that you guys can kind of see the information and look for it yourselves. If anybody has anything else to add, please go ahead and put it in the comment board so we can kind of take a look and we can go on this journey together and get more knowledge and understanding. Like I said, it's just a beautiful thing how the Most High works. I had notes, and all of a sudden this book was given to me, and bam, it just pretty much enhanced the information that I was already studying. But that's how the Most High works. Like I said, at this point I don't question it anymore. I expect the Most High to provide everything that He wants me to use, the things that He wants me to bring to the people's attention. He will make sure that whatever it is that I need that He wants me to have, He will make sure that I get it in order to be able to be used to do His will. Before, I used to always kind of question, is this really happening? Is this really what's happening? Or am I just seeing things? But now it's happened so much that now I come to expect it. I come to expect the Most High is going to bless me because for knowledge and understanding and anything else that I need. I said, because that's what He does. That's the time that we're moving into. We're moving out of the time of the curses. I think our people have been beaten down so much they expect to always be beaten down. Now we're coming to our blessing. And the Most High, many things that we don't have is because we don't ask the Most High for it. Now is the time to start asking the Father, going to the Father and asking Him for the things that we need. The things that we need to serve Him. So we're moving away from the curses. That's why you start to see the curses switching to the other nations. Now we ask the Most High for the things that we need. Maybe sometimes you can ask for the things you want. If it's, if we get it, that's fine. If we don't, we know the Most High knows it's not time for us to have it yet. But it's time for us to go to the Father, pray to the Father, talk to the Father. So go back to Daddy and ask him for the things that we need. I said, he loves us. I said, we've been beaten down so much that we don't think anyone loves us or cares about us, but he does. And it's time for us to start to go back to our power, start to depend on our power again, because he's waiting with his arms open for us to come back to him. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is the Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.